Graffiti lettering. Today our supplies are going to be a pencil and some oil pastels. Today I'm going to practice drawing block letters kind of in a graffiti style. The first step is to practice just writing your letters. I'm going to start with just capital letters, simple line drawing, nice and big in the center of my paper. Now normally when I do block letters or bubble letters, I'll be erasing this later, but I'm not going to worry about that today because I'm going to use a different type of material. So there's my letters, nice and spaced out nice and evenly, and I can think about, I'm going to outline these, which one I want in front because I can let them overlap where they touch. So I'm just going to start with my A. This one will be in front and then these will be behind as I draw. So I'm going to just go around the letters, and I don't have to have them, a lot of times with graffiti art it's really jagged, so I can kind of have things at angles. I'm just going around my A. So I have that shape now, and then I'm going to make an inside triangle for that negative space in the A. Now again, you could erase this, get it out of the way a little bit. I'm just going to do that. You can still see it, but it's just lightly there. So now you can see where this one's going to be behind because I'm going to start the line around this one up against the A. I go around. I'm taking my time. Again, I can kind of make them like geometric and jagged. And see how that would line up. And now you can see how the R looks like it's behind the A. And again, I'm going to make the negative space in my R. And I'm just going to rub this so you can see how I'm not really needing that inside line anymore. And again, now the T is going to be behind the R. And I could add some angles to it. So now I have these nice block letters. So that's a nice way to do block letters. This time I'm going to start with the same word, still using the same letters. I'm going to sketch out my letters, nice and big, center of the paper. And instead of going around them with straight lines and diagonal lines, these are very geometric, except for this curve here, I'm going to go around them with curved lines, so I get more of a bubble letter. So I'm just going to go around. And I've already crossed over my R, so my A is going to be in front. And I'm going to make the center of the A. This kind of makes me think of letters like if you were making them out of balloons. Like nice curves. In fact, that's kind of a cute idea. I could put a little tie there, like it's made out of a balloon. Now I'm going to go around the R. I'm going to start next to my A. And I could make it come behind, think about like that sticking out there. Again, I can get rid of that line that I sketched with, just to place it. And make a little balloon tie. And then I'm going to do my T. You can see why I did them right in the center because they're getting much larger than my initial sketch. So it gives me a lot of room. And there's my letter T. So I have two styles of block and bubble letters. And what we're going to do with these is practice kind of creating some shading with our oil pastels. So today we're going to use oil pastels. So as I look at my oil pastels, I'm going to think about color to do this. Whether or not I want to do all three letters the same color, if I'm going to do them different colors, and I'm going to kind of create the illusion of some 3D equality. So I'm going to use a highlight and a shadow and a main color. So I'm thinking I'm going to pick colors that are near each other. Those are called analogous on a color wheel. Like orange and red are next to each other. So I'm going to start with orange as my main color. I'm going to use the red as kind of like my shading and my shadows. And I'm going to use the yellow as a highlight. So I know it's always harder to go lighter, so I'm going to start with the yellow, and I'm going to kind of go over those light pencil lines and think about like this as a, I like the idea of the balloon. I'm going to go over this like a highlight, like the shiniest part of the balloon. And I'm going to do all three the same color to start. Now I'm going to switch to the main color, so the balloon is basically orange. This time I erased my center lines a little bit more. I didn't like how they did show through my oil pastel a little bit there. So I'm going to use a bit cooler colors this time. I'm going to use the yellow for my highlight, and I'm going to use kind of the green and blue for the middle tones and the purple for the shadows. When I did this one, I really ended up having some of the highlights at the top of the letters, so the lights were kind of coming down on them, not just the curved highlights of the balloon shape. And I definitely layered a lot of colors on that one. So I'm gonna do the, I think I'll do the light coming from this side, so I'm gonna have my highlights on these edges. I'll start with my highlights. So if light is coming down from here, it's gonna hit things like this edge, this curve, this diagonal, probably this edge a bit, maybe this edge, and this edge. And I'm definitely going to go bigger with my highlights because you can always blend them in. So the yellow is my highlight. Then I'm going to go to green. It's a little bit lighter green. This is kind of blending into like my mid-tones. And I like to push down enough so that I get those kind of crumbles on there, but it's not dry looking. Like that looks really dry. I like to get enough oil pastel on there so you lose that dry texture because that's the paper showing through, and really layer it so it gets that kind of more greasy covering. And that really lets you blend. So I don't see any of that texture of the paper showing through. And it's, again, always good to start with the lighter colors because you can go darker, but it's hard to go lighter. Now I've worked really hard to fill in all of that letter. There's hardly any white of the paper or dry spots showing through, and it looks really nice with just the highlights in the middle tone. So it's looking pretty good. Now what I'm gonna do is, I might start with a dark green. I'm gonna look for the shadow. So if the light was coming from here, these are the highlights. The opposite side will be where the shadows are. So I can kind of make some shadows where the R would be on top of the T. That'll make it look like it's above it a little bit. And because I added so much oil pastel in these areas, it's blending really easily now. So I'm gonna kind of go along this edge. The bottoms here, I have a little bit of a shadow. And again, where the R would be on top of the T, it would cast a shadow. So I'm just kind of blending in some shaded areas. Same thing, if the highlights are on this edge, the light's coming from there, then this side's gonna have the shadows. So I'm gonna put a shadow here, on this side, along the bottom, and I'm gonna go around the A so it looks like the A is on top. And that edge, and then the inside here, will get kind of shaded. And now, bring that a little bit. This is the highlight, so these are where the shadows are. So I'm gonna put some dark green here. More this side. On the bottom and the far edge. It's looking pretty good. And if I want to accentuate that a little bit more, then I could use just a hint of an even darker one along that edge. And there you go. Got a nice highlight, middle tone, shadows kind of on top, creating some overlapping and some depth of field. And a nice kind of beginner graffiti art, bubble letter, and block letter, oil pastel lesson.